But anyways, I guess with that I'm going to go ahead and kind of restart the game here, and then we're going to go take a look at some of the other. I think that's a good time to go and take a look at some of the other new features in version 1.11, starting with, as I mentioned before, the pure side ops, and then we'll also go and kind of mess around with the new Tinker doctrine. So let's go ahead and create a new blank scenario. And let's just, for the fun of it, let's go over here. So let's go, oh, have to have a side. Zoom in here. I think that's Norfolk. Let's go ahead, and if I remember, let's go ahead and drop a. Now, one of the cool things here is that we can actually drop, say, a pier back over here. And zoom down, we'll use an extra large one. Now, this blue zone here basically represents basically the axis to the pier. So if we actually wanted to put one, say, up a little bit, like way back here, and then if we orientated our pier like so, it would basically means that basically this kind of represents, things like kind of canal, the zone can kind of represent, if you set it back a little bit, it can kind of represent things like canals and such, or rivers. So where a unit normally wouldn't be able to reach. So for instance, here we had, even though it's back technically on land, if a unit was basically in this zone here, it could actually still reach our pier. Oh, SSN uh was build 800 wasn't out when I had started, so that must have been out pretty much right after. But let's go ahead. We're gonna orientate that kind of like so, so you can actually kind of have a zone of these, and we'll set up various orientations, sort of like that. And let's go ahead and let's find something big. Let's do a Nimitz. Let's use the Stennis. Now, first thing we'll want to do is we'll want to come over here to the pier structure. Let's go ahead and add a magazine. Oh, I just like slow. Let's add a U.S. Carrier Magazine CV 2017. Go ahead and add that. So there's basically what a basically what our carries would be armed with. And we'll come over here to our Stennis. And we're going to set a lot of weapon counts here to 0. 0 J's house. So she's pretty much expended her munitions. No harpoons. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but and another thing that's really got an overhaul in version 1.1 is basically rearming and reloading times, or replenishment times, I guess would be a better way. In that basically units under unrep will actually basically rearm a lot slower than a unit docked at a pier. Let's go ahead and basically zero out our paveways here. So Stennis here is pretty much exhausted her munitions. And then we're going to go to damage control. So overall damage, say 75%. And we're going to have, say, damage to some light damage to her bridge. Let's do some light damage to some sensors. Some medium damage Phalanxes has some medium damage, heavy damage to that one. So one of her catapults has been medium damage. Elevator her resting gear. Heavy damage to that. Open parking. Maybe she also took a missile hit to her hangar deck. Another phalanx that's been heavily damaged. Magazines, yeah, light damage to that. So our status here is pretty beat up, and we're going to select a home base. We'll have it dock with this pier structure. Actually, let's do damage percent at say 95. So she's pretty beat up. So let's go ahead and just run 5-second time interval. So she'll go now. We hit return to base. So she's set a course here for the pier. Just run 1 minute. She's running at 1 knot, so she's pretty beat up here. So she's literally limping into Norfolk over here. Let's go 5 minutes. Oh, her max is 1. So much damage she can actually make beyond 1 knot. And as night falls, this John C. Stennis finally limps back into port. And so now if we go to click on our structure here, we can click on boats. Now, so they ships that are docked at a pier site do have a time to ready, similar to aircraft. So we can click on weapons, so we can see that there's her destroyed weapon systems. We click on here, we can look at her magazine. Yep. As SSN 754 just said, thousands of dock worker sim dudes go to work on her. So she's got 95% damage, 14 systems offline. So we're just going to kind of leave her a little bit over here. And while she's repairing, we'll say go way back over here. We're going to show off how these... so we'll have another very large pier. SSN will have to forgive me for placing a sub base in the completely wrong location, but we're going to go and move this back so it's really kind of back far inland. We'll say it's up a river a little bit. And then we're going to add let's find a submarine. SSN 750. It's not in there. Interesting. What's the closest we have to, let's use the San Juancito. And so she only has light damage to her rudder. Let's see, maybe, where's her sonar at? So I think it's the BPS. So she, maybe she ran a piece of ice. So she's got some light damage, but her main thing is, if we go to her weapons, she's just basically, frankly, going to be out of weapons. So 0 for Actually, I want to go to magazines. So we're going to show off. So she's got no tomahawks left. She's expended her torpedoes, so she's basically completely out of. And what's that? Her home base for that pier, and then go ahead and add a magazine. Oh, I always forget to hit filter by keyword. So we'll set add a we'll go and add a couple of Los Angeles class attack sub magazines. There we go. And so we will have our San Juancito here return to base. So she's going to head into her port, and as you can see, she's basically traveling overland, kind of up a river, we'll say, and then she's now docked over here. And her time to ready is 1 minute 52. That's basically the time before she could actually be relaunched again, and she's going to basically be rearmed. So she's got no real overall damage. She's been refueled. And as you can see, she's basically right there before our eyes. She's actually basically being rearmed. So she's had her ad caps, having her ad caps replaced. We're going at 5-second intervals here. Let's up that to say 1 minute or 5 minutes. Her sonar's been repaired. And we'll just let her kind of sit over there for a couple of minutes. Now let's go check on our. As you can see, our carrier over here. Can't tell if she's basically being rearmed, and she's actually hasn't been in long enough to actually repair anything. So let's go ahead and just set our time scale to 30 minutes here. And how's our Los Angeles looking? She actually may be fully rearmed. Yeah, 16 out of 16, 14 out of 16. So she actually might be actually rearmed. And over here, our Stennis, as you can see, has dropped to 94.9% damage. So it's not going to be kind of quick to repair her. And while we're watching that, let's go and set up kind of a tanker mission over here. So let's load up. Oh, my final score is 0. Let's go ahead and insert a facility over here. Let's say we've got just some generic kind of aircraft shelters. Just all scattered around, doesn't really matter. And actually I should have done these on a different side, because those are going to be targets for us. We'll just come back over here to, we'll add an airbase. Single unit airfield. 4,000 meter plus runway. We're going to show off the new refueling ops. I'm going to edit aircraft. F-35 might be Might have too much fuel for what we need. Oh, F/A-18 E. So just add some F-18Es. Let's create a new side. Call it just evil targets. So over here. So way, say, over there, we're going to have, say, a bridge. And then insert and we'll do some hangars. Oh, not what I wanted. I didn't want a coastal fort. Have gas bunkers. There we go. Just kind of copy these around. We don't really care. Make sure they're auto detectable. Yep. Switch to USN. Oh, our Stennis is actually down to 94.8% of damage. And let's go ahead and so we'll add a new tanker. So what's our strike radius? Um, add a carrier magazine because I really don't want to select one thing that actually, I'll go ahead and point this out real quick. So one thing that actually is new, or another thing that's new, is that if you go into realism settings, so your unlimited magazines for air bases now actually includes for naval bases as well. So you now, when you add one of these piers or these ports for basically rearming of ships, you don't actually have to give it a magazine. You can just say, from scenario wise, assume everybody has unlimited ammo, and you'll never actually have to worry about doing that. So this actually applies to everything. And let's go see, is our Stennis actually being rearmed at all? 94.8 damage. And looks like it actually is maybe being rearmed. No, I doubt with damage to the magazine, maybe it might not be. Let's go ahead and add another single unit airbase over here. And at this base, we want our tankers. So, let's find a KC-46. So we'll add 12 Pegasuses over here. So then now let's set up a mission. Those are hostile. So if we set up here, let's rearm our. So we're gonna arm our Hornets. Let's find. Let's use slammer missiles. So ready immediate. Oh, all right. Watch your guys' ears here. Should have selected unlimited airbase ammo, but so we're going to actually now select those, add new mission. So we're gonna have a ground strike. So we'll assign our assign them, and then we will configure our tankers. So they'll use the specific tankers assigned to the mission. Minimum number of tankers needed, let's say, is 8. Minimum number of tankers airborne is 8. Yes, 4. Minimum number of tankers on station, say, is 4. So when down to 85% of mission fuel, they'll start looking for that. Oh, select a mission. Oh, I have to create new mission. We're gonna add a so we have over here. So we'll assign all of our Pegasus to this mission. Oh, don't have loadouts. Oops. My fault. Now we can go to mission, go to our tankers, assign all of our Pegasus to the mission. 8 is the minimum to have on queue. Now if we go back to our strike and configure, so we can use tankers from a specific mission. So we're going to assign our refuelers from the tankers mission. And then, so our Hornets will refuel from them. Oh, I actually did not know that. Thank you, MSoy. So you used to actually need 3 reference points for a support mission. You actually now only need, according to Dempsey, you actually only need 2, as the uses a buffered area, so the two reference points will actually now create a polygon. So you actually don't need this 3rd reference point anymore. Which that's MC. Does that apply to all support missions, or does that just apply to tanker stations? I'd assume it'd apply to all support missions. So there we go. So now our tankers will head airborne. Oh, have I been running? Okay, so there's our. Oh, I've been running at 30. Oops, I was running at 15 or really should have completely forgot I was running at 30-minute time compression, and that actually wasn't far enough. Our oh, all mission types. Oh, that's good to know. And that was actually kind of a bad test. I should have placed these guys farther away where they would actually had to refuel. Yeah, they didn't even have to break us. All right, so we're gonna swap back over to our evil target side here, and we're gonna move these guys. Let's say Michigan. Michigan's decided to secede from the Union, and now we're gonna launch long-range strikes against it. So plenty of aviation gas over there, and then we will